I had her little boy get an orange out of the bag, and he was just so happy to have that orange. Um, like I said, I think Sherry and I could have been really good friends. We got along great. But after she had her baby and she left the hospital, she told me where she worked, and I tried to stay in touch, but I think it was just too many bad memories. And it kind of hurt because I really, really thought we could be great friends. We already were, you know. But I understood. I wouldn't want a constant reminder of one of the worst days in my life. So if she ever sees this, it'd be nice to hear from her and find out how she's doing. How her little boy is. He's probably not a little boy anymore. Another roommate that I had, she was 13 years old, and she was pregnant, and she was in labor. And I remember her mom and I talking. Her mom was so upset because she had just found out. She had no idea. They ended up taking her down to the labor room, and her mom went with her, and I never saw them again. I don't know, but I kind of expect they probably gave the baby up for adoption. I mean, at 13 years old, it'd be hard to give the baby up, but it would be such a huge life change and a lot for them to take on, to take care of when she's only 13. I mean, she's not old enough to get a job. She's got a lot of schooling to finish. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know for certain, but that's what I kind of figure, you know. Yeah, I had a lot of roommates when I was in there. I'm not even sure how many that is that I've accounted for, but for some reason, some of them I just really don't remember. So I guess that's good. They were decent, but not spectacular. And they sure weren't bad, because otherwise I would have remembered them. So then I went in labor. And I was still 2 months premature, 2 months early. And it was getting late. And my doctor didn't want to have to do a C-section in the middle of the night. So he was wanting me to take this medicine to stop the labor. And I'm like, I don't want to take anything that might hurt the baby, you know? I just... He told me that if I didn't take that medicine, he was going to come down to the hospital and shove it down my throat. Needless to say, I went ahead and I took the medicine. And, yeah, it stopped labor for a few hours. That was it. It just got through the night and started back up again. So Josh was born just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And yes, I had a C-section. I had to because they didn't know if he'd survive if I had him vaginally. So I remember I got to see him real quick. And then they took him in the other room. They had to put him in an incubator and everything. And so later that day, I was determined I wanted to see my baby. And before I went to see him, I remember one of the nurses coming in, and she was like, "Do you want to see your baby?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I got a picture." And she showed me this picture. And, you know, the whole time I was in there, they kept telling me that, actually it had a ultrasound just days before, and because of the amniotic fluid leaking, they said that I was going to have a girl. And they told me that the baby would only be 2 pounds. And the whole time I was in there, they kept taking me to see the other babies, the little babies, and how tiny they were. They were all around 2 pounds. I think there might have been one that was 1 something. And they told me all these things that could go wrong. Well, not all the things that could go wrong, because when Josh was born and that nurse went to give me a picture of him, I looked at the picture, and my first thought was, that's a little Mexican baby. She's showing me the wrong picture. And then I got to looking, and I realized, yeah, that was my son, but it was because his bilirubin level was high, so he was tan. And nobody ever told me that that would be a possibility or that that would most likely happen. And frankly, I don't really remember the babies they showed me. But then again, I didn't know the parents. So they could have been tan too. And I never would have thought anything of it, you know. Just whichever babies happened to be born and be in there right then. If they were Mexican or black or whatever, I didn't know. So I tease Josh sometimes and say he's my little Mexican baby. But he was born 2 months premature, in a big hurry to get here. And I remember them telling me that he would probably be in there for 2 months. And that was if everything went fairly well, you know. But I was praying and praying he'd be able to get home soon, that he'd be home in time for Easter that year. And lo and behold, when he was born, he was almost 5 pounds. And I had every intention to breastfeed him, and they had me pumping while I was in the hospital. But for some reason, they were giving him formula. And he lost a bunch of weight. And they said he had to at least gain to be 5 pounds before he could go home. And that's if everything was going smoothly, going great. And so, like I started to say, just before Easter, I don't know, like a couple days or something before Easter, I had been praying that he'd be home in time for Easter that year. And lo and behold, he got to come home. But before he got to come home, my mom and I had to go for classes to learn about preemies and how to handle and everything. He came home with an apnea monitor, and I had to learn all about that. But he got to come home before Easter, so he was only in there about 3 weeks instead of 2 months. So he did really, really well. We have some pictures that when he was in the hospital, he had to have a stomach tube, and a certain relative, or a couple certain relatives, they didn't like the picture because of the stomach tubes. It's like, that's helping to keep him healthy. And considering how early he was, I was just thankful that he was doing so well, that he was so healthy. And the stomach tube is just a temporary thing. But anyway, so like I said, Josh got to come home 3 weeks instead of 2 months. He did amazingly well. And when he got home, he was putting on like about a pound or two a day there for a while. He really was chunking up. But he's always done well. He's been very healthy. And I'm so thankful to have him. And you know, with this whole being T-boned and everything, it's been a really extremely hard time in my life. And I thank God for Josh. I thank Josh. He's helped me through. He's taking care of me when I can't take care of myself. He's such a blessing. And I love him. So, that's my little story about when Josh was born. And yeah, there was a little sadness, but it all worked out well because 3 weeks instead of 2 months. And I recently talked with a friend of mine on Facebook, and she had said her grandchild, I don't even remember if it was a boy or girl, but they had been born 2 months early, and they had told her that he'd be in there for the 2 months. And so I told her my story. And give her a little hope. If everything goes really well, he could be out sooner. And hopefully he'll be just as healthy, But, okay, well, that's it for that story today. And I'll see about trying to get it uploaded soon here. And you guys take care. Bye.